As a prophet, Jonah is super fun because he's the reluctant prophet that clearly does not want anybody to repent and be saved. He is not only trying to get away from his mission, but look at how little effort he puts into it. Here's this city that's so big that if you were to journey through it, it would take 3 full days. And he's only in on the first day, and what does he say? He says, 40 days more and Nineveh will be destroyed. He never says to them, repent and your fortune could change. He never says, seek God's mercy. He never even tries to package it in a way that might be compelling to them to incentivize them to repent. He just throws out the punishment. 40 days more and Nineveh shall be destroyed. There's nothing you can do. That's it. I'm just doing the bare minimum of my job so I can get out of here and go back home. And yet, their response could not be more dramatic. Not only do the people declare a fast, and it says great and small, so no one is excluded from this. They put on sackcloth and ashes. But even the king himself takes off his robe, covers himself with sackcloth and in ashes, declares that even the animals have to be covered in such a way, and they not only don't eat food, they don't even drink water. Like, what fast do you know doesn't even allow water? So this is the most extreme response. This is more than Jonah could have even ever imagined, and it's the opposite of everything that he wants. Now, why does he not want these people to be saved? Because it's 700 BC. And this isn't Israel he's proclaiming to. It's Assyria, which is essentially the death empire. And Jonah knows that in 10 years, Assyria is going to come down and wipe out all of the Israelites as the arm of God's justice. So he's preaching to the enemy, and he's wearing the jersey of Team Israel. And he doesn't want them to repent. He would prefer them to be destroyed. But isn't that all the more striking? The enemy of Israel, who doesn't believe in all this monotheism nonsense, hears an Israelite prophet give the absolute bare minimum and yet ushers the most generous response possible. And so Jesus says to his own Israelite people, at the final judgment, I don't even have to judge you. The men of Nineveh will rise, non-Jews. Remember, the enemy of the Israelite people, they're going to arise and they will condemn you because their response was better than yours. And there is something greater than Solomon and Jonah here. So what's the message for us? You know, it can happen especially for those of us who have longevity in the Catholic faith and the exercise of growing in holiness and espousing the gospel and following Jesus Christ as a disciple, that we sort of like... Makes me think of my track days. You know, when you're starting off, you're like, woo, and you power through. But then after a while, you're just sort of like, maybe I'll just sort of like chug along. I'll just chug along. And we can do that in the spiritual life. I'm just going to chug along. And it happens in the spiritual life that someone who has proven themselves an enemy of God for the majority of their days has a conversion. And they blast off. And next thing you know, we who've been at it for years and decades and whatever, it's like, they go, what? How did they get there? How did that happen? And so what Jesus is prompting us to do is say, well, then don't let that happen. Don't chug along. Race, run, strive for this. Remember the fervor of your youth. When God impacted your life, when you decided in that moment, whenever that day was, that God was the center of your heart and sat on the throne of your soul. Go back to that fervor and take off with the rest of them. Then you will be my disciple because I will have all of your heart in the way that these new converts give me theirs.